Hello and welcome to our weekly boxing chat on Sky Sports News. I'm Andy Scott and this week I'm joined by Barry Jones and one of the biggest rising stars in all of boxing. 8 professional bouts, 8 wins, 5 coming inside the distance. It is the surgeon, Ben Whittaker. Great to see you. How are you doing?
All good, thanks for having me.
Now it's not a fluke that we got you down this week because finally you have fight news. It's out there now. October 12th against Liam Cameron on the undercard of Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Presumably over the moon. It's not been a long time coming, but everybody's been asking you what's next, when is next, and now you can confirm it.
Exactly. For me, it's just another fight, another opponent, and another date, venue. But the magnitude of the place, the platform, it's only right I get myself on there, really.
And Liam Cameron, what can you tell us about him? How did the conversation go in terms of opponents that were put to you, and why Liam?
He was the top of the list. He's fought some good opponents, won things previously. I said, yeah, let me show how good I am. And he's the person to show how good I am.
Is that fair enough to say that he is your toughest test to date in your career?
Of course, yeah. As a year, he's the toughest opponent on paper, but we'll show I'm a level above.
I'm going to bring in Barry Jones because I think boxing fans will know Liam, won't necessarily know his full story, but in terms of pedigree, he was a very good amateur, had 5 years out of the sport, but you did his last fight working for our colleagues at Channel 5 when he got a split decision loss to Lyndon Arthur, so that's good pedigree in against good quality. What sort of problems could Liam potentially pose? What will Liam bring to the table more than anything?
I think mental strength, more than anything else. He's technically very good, Liam, and he's physically strong, and he's committed to his task. But his mental strength, he won't feel sorry for himself when Ben makes him miss, which he inevitably will. That's his ability. But he will keep coming. He will keep coming. So all the questions that people ask or want answered about, what's going to be like when he comes against a live opponent, well, they'll find out, because this is a live opponent. This is a step up in class, but also, more importantly than that, not just a step up in class. This is a guy who's, you've got something to gauge him off. He's been beaten by Lyndon Arthur in a close fight, but the right winner. But he's good at confidence in himself. If you can do a better job than that, then you start comparing him to fighters who are just above him in the rankings, and then we talk about making those moves that we're all saying, where Ben should end up, where he should be. Well, we'll have a gauge now where we think where he is now, and the route to success, or the timeline to where he can get to the very top.
You've boxed out in Saudi Arabia before, so it is a little bit of like returning to the scene of the crime, because you were pretty upset last time. That was the scene where you got quite a bad injury. It's the one that kept you out for so long. You weren't overly happy with your performance, even though those of us that are emotionally separated from it actually gave you quite good marks out of 10 for it. So going back there and being on a bill like this with top of the bill unification fight, or undisputed fight I should say, in your division, it is going to be a chance to showcase your skills to a different audience.
Of course, I call it a return of the Mac. Now I'm going there to right the wrongs and I'm excited. Of course there's going to be different fights, but tune in and watch and see me and I'll steal the show.
Let me ask you about some of the rest of the card, and I'm going to come to this name first because it was only a couple of weeks ago that Chris Eubank Jr sat in that seat there, and it was put to him, what about Ben Whittaker? And I think he described it as a sexy fight. Do you agree, first off? I mean, I know we're headline writers, aren't we? It's probably not practical at the moment with weights, but can we get the phrase never say never out of you? Is that fair enough?
Of course, never say never. He classed it as a sexy fight. I'd say more Beauty and the Beast. But of course, you can never say never. It's a good fantasy fight. He's got a great name, and who knows? I'd be up for it.
What's the drawback? The weight? He would have to come up from middleweight, super middleweight at best to meet you at light heavyweight.
Yeah, of course.
Fair to say that frame that you're carrying, you can't squeeze below 175 pounds. It's not really practical.
Exactly. I say it would be a one-off fight, and it'd have to be a catch weight of some sort, hopefully super middle. But if he's game, I'm game. Tell Turkey to set it up, man. I'm all right with that.
Okay. So Turkey Al Al-Sheikh, to add to your list of things that people are asking you to make, you've got to make that. Chris Eubank Jr is facing Kamil Seremeta, probably best known, Barry, for the Munguia fight, the Triple G fight. It is being classed as a comeback fight. We're in fantasy land at the moment, aren't we? That fight is not on the table at the moment, Ben Whittaker and Chris Eubank Jr.
No, I can't see it happening. I just think where their careers are right now and what he's looking for, and also the weight's the biggest factor. Chris Eubank's too small. But money in this sport, is a bigger driver than anything else. So he'll be in a sweatsuit for 6 months, and and Chris will be eating some pies, putting on some weight. You never know. Listen, fantasy fights are not fantasy fights anymore. We're seeing them happen, so you just never know. But I think it's just important for Ben to concentrate on his own career, his own path, and there's titles in the light heavyweight division for him to take.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, your last appearance, can we talk about that? We speak about it in very candid terms on the podcast, which is available later today. Ezra Aranика, it's fair to say you were a level above Ezra. You showed us every punch in the book. You're your own harshest critic. Yeah. What could you have done more? And could you have stopped him? No disrespect to Ezra at all, but I think that's probably the criticism that would be levelled at you there.
Of course I could have stopped him. There was many rounds I could have stopped him, but going back, a win, comfortable win and a title. Can't really complain, but me being the perfectionist that I am, there's so many times I could have just put my foot on the gas and hit him with a perfect punch and knocked him out, but that's what these fights are for, and it's all part of the journey.
The showboating is never going to leave you. I'm not even sure I think we should call it showboating, but it's part of your, it's part of your attack now. Yes. He wasn't too enamoured, was he? And you got a little bit of a riposte, which is new for you, which was the headbutt and the elbow. I
kind of liked it. It shows that I'm tough. I walked him back to the corner there. I said, asked if he was okay, and then I get a little nod. But at the end of the day, it's all fun and games. We didn't mean nothing about it, and we shook hands after, but I ate it quite well. Yeah. But this one, big elbow there, it's like a WWE scene, that was. But it shows I can take it. I'm tough as nails, and when I really need to, you can just get through it.
And is this the point in the fight where you were stepping on it, but you perhaps could have stepped on it a little bit more? He was,
of course,
he was ready to
that
go.
Right there.
Right, like me saying that, by the way.
That right there, it shook him to his boots, and he was running off. But as you can see on the time, it was 15 seconds. I didn't really want to rush it and things like that. But it's all shoulda, woulda, couldas. But we won. We got the job done. Got the title, and hopefully, if that opportunity comes in Saudi, you'll see me put the show to an end.
It's good, Barry, in a number of ways. Sorry to talk about Ben like you're not here, but it's good that Ben Whittaker is alert enough that you can watch that and realise, I should have put my foot on the floor there, and I will have to in better quality of opponents. I suppose that's my question to you. As he steps up, if the opportunity is there to take a man out, should that opportunity be taken?
Yeah, and I think you're talking about, Liam Cameron, talking about Lyndon Arthur. He coached some fights and has had nights because of that. And I think that's just the difference here for learning not to coach fights. When things are comfortable, you have the ability to make things comfortable all the time. But it's also, you put the pressure on, you can get caught. His style is his style. So he has to box to express himself where he feels the best and most comfortable, but still, taking that step up, I think, putting more pressure on opponents at times when you're able to, just to keep them under the cosh. I think that's very important. You give a fighter an opportunity to get back into the fight, and that could be the undoing. And you know that, you've been a world-class amateur. But the fact that these are learning fights and you are taking the positives and the negatives as well and working on those, that shows you maturing as an athlete. These are all good signs. And I think this next fight now against Liam Cameron is a really hard fight, but the perfect fight and a perfect step up for him.
Yep, amen. If we move on to other fights on the card, Big Fraser Clark was in here last week. Felt his presence. But happy to say that he is rematching Fabio Wardley. I think I'd speak for most boxing fans, not just because we're Sky Sports and we did the first fight and you want to see it again, blah, blah, blah. It's a great fight. When you have a great fight, we get selfish as fans, you want to see it again. How happy are you, Ben, as a fight fan, that we get to see more of this? I mean, I'm not sure these two are delighted to be doing it again, but us as fans...
Yeah, as a fight fan, I'm very excited. And not only that, I was a teammate of Fraser's, and I know how much he wants to right that wrong. It was a draw. He could have maybe nicked it, but when it's a fight like that, for fans, you just can't get better than that. And hopefully it's like that from the first round. You know what I mean? Me and Barry will be watching it with some popcorn.
Or through your fingers. Barry, let me ask you, what corner would you rather be in going into round 13, if we call it that? Whose shoes would you rather be in?
I think Clark's now. I think the last time I fancied Fabio to win the first fight. I've got to be honest, hold my hands up. I thought he tried and tested in a war, and we hadn't seen Clark in it, but I think Clark answered. Just because he's technically better, keeps his shape better, and I think in fights like this, that can be the difference. I thought he just nicked it the first time, but arguably, you couldn't argue the draw or either way. It was such a close fight. But
You're watching it like that, they're absolutely exhausted. It's incredible, really.
You can't ask
It is
more.
incredible.
You literally punch until there's no breath left in your lungs. I think that's what you want from an athlete. That's what you want from a great heavyweight fight. And whatever they're getting paid is not enough. If it's anything like that first fight, that was a war of wars. I almost never went. I was ringside. It was just a pleasure to watch. And I've seen some of the best heavyweight fights in the last sort of 20, 30 years. And that's right up there with all of them. It was just a great fight. And if the second was half as good, we're in for a treat.
Yeah, although you would have watched world-class coverage live on Sky Sports had you stayed at home. Raven Chapman and Sky Nicholson are on that card as well. We talk about that in the podcast. But I just want to touch on Joe Cordina. So he split with Tony Sims and linked up with Barry Smith and the Ben Davison Performance Centre. Takes on Shakur Stevenson at lightweight. You know both men, really. But I'm intrigued what you make of Shakur Stevenson. I'll come to Barry for Joe. But what do you make of Shakur?
Yeah, I know both guys, but for me, stylistically, I really like Shakur Stevenson. As a boxing purist, he does everything right, stands in the pocket when he needs to, makes the small adjustments when he needs to, counters, distance. He's got everything as a fighter for me, and I like what he does. He might get criticised that he might be not the best pleasing to watch, but as a boxing fan, I love it. And for what he's done in the sport, Olympic medalist, numerous time world champion, he's on a great trajectory.
I think, Barry, you take your hat off to Joe Cordina. The weight will obviously help him because I think we were all familiar with his struggles at the weight below. Is there I don't want to be too disrespectful. In what ways could he upset Shakur Stevenson? It's still a very live fight for him, but it's widely accepted that he is a huge underdog.
No, he is, because he's up against a guy, for the first time in his career, he's not the most skillful boxer in the ring, Joe Cordina. He's never experienced that. He's so great to watch. But he's a mature fighter now, Joe. Tough, seasoned now all of a sudden. I think he needs to put pressure on Shakur, make him work hard. When Shakur looking for space to show his skill, you suffocate that space and make him work hard. You make him work when you want to work. It's extremely difficult to do, but I think that's the only route for him to win. And for saying, usually with Joe, it's all about using your skill, using your footwork, using your ability. But in this fight, it might be more brawn than brain for Joe Cordina.
Those of you that are active on social media, you will have seen Turki Al Sheikh say today that they have requested to extend the capacity of Wembley Stadium, hoping to set a record for the largest attendance for boxing. So the record at the moment, I think, is 94,000 for Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte. Just around the corner now is Anthony Joshua against Daniel Dubois. Who do you fancy in that fight? We know in the podcast there's some great stories about rooming with Daniel Dubois. I won't spoil the podcast. So you've got a foot in both camps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was actually managed by AJ, roomed with Dubois, so I do really like both guys. But for me, it's youthful experience, and I'm really excited to see it. Just like Fraser Wardley, two big heavyweights going at it. There's nothing more exciting.
Now, Liam Gallagher is actually performing before the main event under the Wembley Arch. I would advise people, if there's more tickets going on sale today, chances are that's the only place you're going to get tickets, because everybody wants tickets for this Oasis reunion. But we have been in the archive and had a look at the Gallagher brothers' love affair with boxing. So this was the Fat Man. This is when Ricky Hatton had the fat suit against Paulie Malignaggi. And you can see in the background there both Liam and Noel. This is before the fight as well. I mean, the essence of cool. I don't think Barry or I could pull this off. This was post-fight. Ben, you might be able to pull out this level of cool. This was probably one of the last times they were actually together, because Noel's love affair with boxing continued, and he made his way to ringside against Khalid Gradia, where you did the business, the surgeon, the celeb.
There he is.
And
there he is.
Did he have a nod of approval, Noel? Of course he did.
Look at that.
Are you going to get some tickets, Ben? I don't think it's your scene, although I don't want to put you in a box.
Well, you know, it looks like me and Noel are good friends now, so if he's there, I'll be there.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Don't forget, you can watch Joshua Dubois live on Sky Sports Box Office on September 21st. Just before we go, we have some live boxing for you next Tuesday. That's September 3rd. Pound for pound icon Naoya Inoue defends his undisputed super bantamweight title against TJ Dehaney in Tokyo. That's all coming up. We're looking forward to that. That is all we've got time for. So thank you very much, Ben and Barry. And make sure you join us next week for more boxing action. And remember, download the Toe to Toe podcast wherever you get your podcast from.